And I call the honourable member for Banks.
Well, thank you very much, Mr Deputy Speaker. And I'm very pleased to speak on this MPI, focusing as it does on the incredibly clear contrast between those opposite, all three of them who are here with us this afternoon, and the members of the government. Now, I think it's important that we are fair to those opposite, Mr Deputy Speaker, and it certainly has been the case in recent times that all we hear from those opposite is negativity and complaining and really just whinging, basically, Mr Deputy Speaker. And so you could be excused for thinking that there was no strategy at all over on the other side and no real philosophy. But you know there is, Mr Deputy Speaker. There is a very, very clear approach to government on the other side and their views on how things should be conducted, which is really just three words: spend more money, Mr Deputy Speaker. That is always their view. Spend more money. So in 2007, they came to government, of course, kicked off the Spendathon, and off they went, Mr Deputy Speaker. And they were very, very hard to constrain during that period because government spending went up by 50% in 6 years. That's a massive rate of growth, Mr Deputy Speaker, and there are businesses all around Australia which would be thrilled and delighted were they able to have that sort of revenue growth in a mere 6 years. $50 billion in the bank when they came in, $200 billion of debt when they left, and incredibly heading towards the track towards $2/3 of $1 trillion in debt, Mr Deputy Speaker, within a decade. And that's trillion with a T. Now, that's not a word we're used to using in Australia very much, Mr Deputy Speaker. It's not the EU, it's not China, it's not the United States. This is Australia. But the path that those opposite, the one of them who are still with us, was on was a path towards $2/3 of $1 trillion of debt. Just unbelievable, Mr Deputy Speaker. Not content. They were not content with what they did in those 6 years. What they decided to do after that was lock in their numbers, the fastest rate of growth in the OECD for the next 6 years. So not content to grow it at 50% for the 6 years they were in government, they said, well, look, let's lock in dramatically high rates of spending from 2012 to 2018, because they never saw a government spending program that they didn't like, Mr Deputy Speaker. So many examples. Now, the NBN, Mr Deputy Speaker, we've talked about it many times, and remarkably, of course, knowing what we know about the NBN, Mr Deputy Speaker, from $4.7 billion of government investment, then it was going to be 43. Of course, we know now that it was on track to 72. It's fascinating. The member for Lilly, at the time of in 2009, the grave announcement of the NBN, encouraging mums and dads in Australia to invest in the NBN and actually saying, direct quote, there couldn't be a better investment than the NBN. That's what he said. And this man was, of course, the treasurer of the entire nation. So we're paying $1 billion of debt every month. What do we get for our $1 billion? Well, we get to stand still. We borrow $1 billion, and once we've done that, we get to stand still at a debt level of about $200 billion, which is just extraordinary, Mr Deputy Speaker. This budget frankly addresses the significant problems that were created by the previous government. Importantly, because it's a prudent budget, because it's a careful budget, there is the capacity to invest where it's sensible to do so. Invest in infrastructure, Mr Deputy Speaker. The West Connects in my own electorate, which will be a fantastic initiative, cutting travel times to the city by more than 20 minutes. And, of course, other great programs like the Restart program, which will encourage employers to employ older workers. And it's also, we need to remember, Mr Deputy Speaker, that within the prudent envelope of this budget, we have provided for record levels of spending in hospitals and schools. Record levels of spending, Mr Deputy Speaker, increasing every year. They go up and then they go up, and they continue to go up. And all of this hard work, cleaning up the mess, Mr Deputy Speaker, means we save $300 billion that we would otherwise have incurred in debt. We go from a $50 billion deficit to just $3 billion within a few years, and we address those difficult structural problems. We've ended the Spendathon, Mr Deputy Speaker. Someone had to do it. That's what coalition governments do. What those do is spend like there's no tomorrow, and that's the wrong plan for Australia.